Okay, we're ready for the continuation of the public hearing to look at the draft decision for 78 Chestnut Street.
Here with all red lines.
Holy cow.
Can you really say that something is approximately 206.02 feet? How can that be approximate?
Oh, what happened was I filled it in, so deleted approximate.
Yeah, I mean, that's within 200ths of a foot.
Beth, have you had a chance to read this over yet, or is this your first
No,
look at
Betsy
it?
sent it over, and she asked for two numbers. And I don't know if you were able to see those, Betsy?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're used to sharing. Neither of us bite.
Okay, top of page 2. We're still missing a number,
The
right?
distance, yeah.
The distance is cited X feet from the
That-
western
Wait,
side.
did you send
provided
that to
that,
me?
though.
Yes.
Okay, wait a minute.
Where on,
Top of page
Yeah.
2.
To the back property
right,
line.
I inserted, you had a question on your draft
Yeah.
about whether or not it was the center. We started 206.02.
Yeah.
I had from the center line, and you didn't think that was correct. There was a question about that. So it's 206.02 feet from the center line, 195.15 feet from the property line, which is the street right of way.
Okay, so wait a minute, what was the other figure?
It's the one already in the document,
206.02 from the center line.
Right,
except you have to uncross out center line.
Right.
right. And 195.15 feet from the property line, which was the street right of way.
And that's all in Beth's email.
And then because of the two differences, I put in the existing house is 1.356 feet from the property line, which is the street right of way. And then the number you were missing is the proposed dwelling is also cited for 466.57 feet from the western side property line.
That's in your email, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Did you get that in there?
Nice to have them all.
You got it?
Yeah.
think that at the bottom of page 7 is where we actually start E for the
Yeah,
exterior lighting.
yeah.
And do we have a total lumens? So now it's
There is.
11,429. There it is. It's under F.
I'm not up to 7 yet, but on page 4, item VI, item 6, it should be conditions of approval. It's just a small typo.
Okay.
Is this house exactly on the setbacks, is the foundation exactly on the setbacks, or is there some wiggle room there? I don't have.
There's some
Okay.
wiggle room. No,
All right.
there is.
There is, okay.
Not a lot.
All right,
but
but
there
there is.
is.
All right, so it isn't a function of when you need to shoot the foundations
Well,
before the house gets built or what?
how much is sun wiggle? If it's like 6 inches, I think we probably need to
Right.
shoot them.
Yeah, how much?
Since I can't, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't want to shoot from my hip on this one, since I don't have the site.
You don't have to have the folder with you, do you?
No. It's usually real principle. And if it's, yeah, I'd rather that they let the ZBA rather nip that in bud.
It tells me we're gonna see this when we can. We're gonna get the shuttlecock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can I help you in any way, Dave?
Betsy, I was wondering what's in those things.
Hmm?
I was wondering what's in these big envelopes. Exciting. It's actually lovely now.
It's an engineering folder.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Let's see, where are we? That's landscaping.
Yeah, this is
This is survey. So the survey of this. So the side yard setback is 45.
Correct.
Yeah, you're at
45, 75.
No, 45 feet 9 inches here.
It's-
You're at 45 feet 8 inches here. So it's pretty tight.
Mm.
What do people feel? Should we talk about shooting the
Shooting the
foundations with a, because we've seen how
Yes.
foundations that are off by a
Easy.
foot.
A foot, right. Yeah, so absolutely.
So we should add a condition that requires that the foundation be confirmed by a surveyor.
Okay, so where do you want?
That's issuance of the building permit.
That's before the building permit. No, that's
No, it isn't.
during,
It's
that's
after.
during construction.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So,
So item
Where do we
9,
usually put it?
that'd be item 9. the foundation should be,
Item.
the location of the foundation should be
What page
certified
you
by a
talking about?
surveyor.
What
Page
page?
6.
6.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
I think it would be 6.
It actually should be before 8. It starts, it should be,
Yeah, that's prior to issuance of a building permit.
Right.
So it belongs under B.
B.
No,
That's
it's
where
not.
I am.
Oh.
Prior to
Page
the
6.
issuance of a building permit?
No.
No, it's during
It's
construction,
during construction.
but
you
general
know what,
erosion
it should
control.
be between
no,
1
you
and
know.
2.
I agree.
It should be between 1 and 2.
Not under the general title, general and erosion control. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
general and
Yes,
erosion
it would be
control,
there,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
between 1 and 2.
But early on.
Between number 1 and 2 there.
In other communities where I've worked, if the foundation's been put in, it could be a situation where the building commissioner holds off on the stick form of the construction until this confirmation of the foundation. I don't know, we happen to have John here. Do you ever do situations where you issue the foundation permit separately from the rest of the,
We'd rather not, because it creates such an administrative headache.
right?
Actually, I think
Okay.
it may belong under A.
But we do require a certified foundation plan prior to completion of the
Wait,
project.
belong under A.
It wouldn't
Because
issue a
prior to
certificate
commencement
without.
of the work, it could be.
Yeah, I just-
You want to
between 2
shoot
and
the
3.
actual foundation
This-
forms.
This is a situation where it's
Oh, okay.
within less than a foot of
Right,
the
yeah.
setback
Mhm.
for each of the side yard setbacks.
Mhm.
Shoot. for
So,
it,
um,
so they can start.
You have to build a form, and then
Yeah.
otherwise you're not confirming anything.
So I think the board would prefer to have the issue resolved prior to CO.
Mhm.
Well,
Prior
Prior
to
to-
concrete.
No, exactly, concrete's poured. That's
No,
what-
it's when the form work is done.
Well, before the
You'd
concrete.
shoot the foundation, what
That's-
we're
that's-
saying is that we're going to require that the foundation forms be shot with a surveyor to verify that they're in the right place
Mhm.
during construction. That's all we're asking for.
Right.
So it's
And
it's
that
under
should be
B.
provided to the board at what point, or to the building commissioner at what point,
The permit gets issued, building permit.
Right.
They start construction.
right?
They build
They dig
up
the hole.
the foundation
Yeah.
form work.
Yeah,
That's when the surveyor comes out and shoots
Right.
the forms.
right,
And then, if they're off, they can move the forms.
right,
Not after the concrete's poured, because then
Right.
all hell will break
right,
loose.
right, get it.
So where do you put the clause, are you asking, or?
It's anywhere under B.
Yeah, like David
Doesn't
suggested
matter.
between 1 and 2 on page 5. Can we go back to the discussion though?
Sure.
So have you used this clause in other?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give me example of what decision you wrote it in?
I can't
Or I'll go
offhand remember
I
exactly.
just remember
which.
the building that caused the
It
whole,
caused the whole,
the whole addition of the
Miriam's
boilerplate.
the cement that had to come out.
So it had to be removed after much angst.
And an engineer had to get fired, and it was
Stuff like that.
very bloody.
It was
It's
ugly.
ugly.
Okay.
You don't want anyone
So,
getting
yeah,
fired.
I can't.
So you wanted to go back to the
So
discussion?
going back to page 2 of the discussion, it's very light because the meeting minutes from May 6th haven't been written.
Yeah.
So Betsy didn't have anything to use, and there's just not
But
much
those are
there.
Kara ones.
Correct, I believe that's correct.
Okay. Or they could have been Susan Haber ones.
I don't know how.
Beth is saying Kara.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if we can really complete this without that information.
How do you get it?
From Kara.
I have
from her
been
meeting minutes.
asking both Kara and Susan to step it up on the minutes.
Well, so I suppose what needs to be said is, this is holding up our ability to make a decision on an application.
I've been on them about it. I don't know what to do. I mean, I've done the best I can, given the fact they don't have the minutes.
They don't even have anything? They have nothing?
Well, I've asked them for the minutes because I've been working on these decisions.
Yeah, but do they not even have notes?
I mean, yeah, Karen must have notes, she was there.
Yeah, you know, she said she's working on them. She did give us one set. I mean, I can,
I think Susan's only minutes were that. Was it just one meeting?
King's Ranch.
Right, King's Grant
Right.
meeting. I
I
think
mean-
Susan only took minutes for one meeting,
okay,
so she's off the hook, but, so it's,
okay.
It's gotta
I mean,
be-
I can get Kara's minutes, you know, I can have her push on it and incorporate what was noted at that meeting into this section.
You can
Because
also
typically-
view them on the video.
Exactly.
I mean,
Very-
in just this one thing. I mean, you don't have to read it.
yeah,
Right.
that's
And
true.
that's probably the most accurate.
Okay,
Because the thing is, we usually, and I believe we did in this case, ask for there to be some changes in that first hearing.
Mm.
And they come back, but there's nothing about
There's no
any kind
reference
of
to it.
changes that
Mm.
we required.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have that for the record.
and that was at the May
May 6th.
6th. So I can look at the video and incorporate some language in.
If you have to, if you can't get the notes from Kara.
Okay.
Can we do anything with this pending those additions?
We can try to, we might, I don't know, we can, when we get to the end of this, then let's discuss whether we can do anything.
So Betsy, on page 3, you'll need to renumber those plans because the first one
Right,
is
Yeah.
blank.
okay,
But there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that.
right.
Well, not a lot, but
Some tweak
it's gotta
in
get
there.
tweaked.
Yeah. Right,
Doesn't really add anything.
right.
That's page 3.
Who's red underlined comments?
Me.
Okay. Under your paragraph D, Steve, it's
Where are
redundant to
we?
say, oh, I'm on page 7, sorry. Paragraph 1D,
Mhm.
my only comment is, it's, the first phrase is redundant, because this is prior
Yeah,
prior to the whole, every condition in here is prior to a C of O.
yeah, I don't know, I got that from something, but you're right. And on the next item, E, it's missing E, but that E, Betsy, I'm not sure those are the right plans because usually the exterior lighting fixtures aren't on the first and second floor lighting plans. I think prepared by the architects.
The problem is in this set.
Are they really on there, the
Wait a
exterior
minute,
ones?
wait a minute, hang on. 'Cause I kinda did something.
Betsy? Lighting pictures? Is this what you're looking for?
Yeah, but on there's another set of plans that has
Yes,
the
that one.
first and
Yeah.
second floor, and then on one of the plans, here we go.
But we're gonna need to put it out.
Okay, this set, what they did was, so this is the first floor, and then the second floor, and then they put the legend for both,
I see.
which is why I referenced both.
So what's on that?
Oh, that
Is
was
it-
the exterior.
So this is exterior too, I think.
This is the,
Yeah, exterior, so there's some redundancy. We better make sure that they're the same.
they are, what I was looking
They're
at,
not the same, total lumens are different.
11,421.
We got 10.
10,885,
Where do you see?
right
Right
here.
there.
Total lumens, all exterior lighting fixtures.
What's the date of yours, Beth?
Oh, this is the one that
Oh,
came.
this has no date.
This is the, should be.
I mean, normally
they-
we would be looking at a landscape plan like that.
This is the one that from the May meeting.
Yeah, but this one,
Okay, this is dated February.
Yeah, I think this is probably
Okay,
the right
this-
one,
this
Okay,
is-
and we should just ignore those.
Which means the lumens are going up, right?
but you know,
Yeah,
I don't
but they're
even, I don't
fine.
think I even have this.
In fact, you say 11,429.
I think because we submitted it together.
You must have it.
11,429.
Yeah, Betsy, you have the lumens off of this, so you must have it.
So it's right here.
Yeah.
is that it? That's
Now
not
I'm
it
not
either.
seeing what you're looking at. This is L3.
I don't
This
think
is
I
not-
have
This
this.
is not the
This is not
revised
the right
one.
one.
I don't think I have this plan. on that file.
Do you have the plans that were dropped off in the Dropbox that we sent them over?
The electronic
All
one?
the electronic ones, and I think Cynthia sent over the hard copies with the final submission.
Hang on, I don't think I, this is February. No, let's see. I don't recall looking at that plan today. or
That's
yesterday.
February also.
Yeah, I don't. It may be somewhere upstairs. And I just, but, why don't we make revision based on that?
And Betsy, your list of fixtures with the lumens will have to agree with this too. I think it's a little different than what you wrote
Okay.
there, but it's close. Do you want this, or do you want this back?
I,
It begs the question of,
I-
you know, whether we're, is this the only drawing where there's a disconnect, or, you
no,
know?
if, what I did is I compared what Betsy sent to what we sent over, because we did list all the plans and all the dates. And I compared what they were saying on here with what Betsy had. I'm not, we had 5 of 1 and things like that, but the names are correct, and the
How about the
lumens are
dates?
correct. The date is correct.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what, I know that we sent over a whole set
Okay.
with the complete submission.
Yeah,
And this is,
but when you look through the drawing list,
I looked-
everything lined up except this is the only one that looks like this, it's not quite,
no,
I mean, it's possible that it's in the decision, but yet I don't have something here. So,
when we did our list that we sent over of all the sites, did we list the lighting fixtures? No. However, I compared the lighting fixtures on this to
and that's
what was
page
sent over.
12?
Yeah,
So this is, and that's the planting plan,
yeah.
which, so it's listed in here.
Yeah.
It's just, I
You
don't
don't have a
have it
copy.
in here. So,
So-
and if the numbers are
Interesting.
right,
But I can tell you that what we sent over originally to Betsy, our list, didn't have lighting fixtures. So I know Betsy must have it because I certainly didn't put these numbers on
I
there.
did it based on the
Yeah.
plan that I have.
Yeah,
So
so
what
I-
I need to do is just double check and reconcile
I mean,
between that and,
The point of my
Well,
question
I'm
is,
under
I want to be sure she has the latest of all the drawings.
Yes.
So this begs the question, does she have the
Well-
latest of all the drawings, even if they're correctly listed in the decision?
here's my tap on it. There was an electronic version sent to me, but I don't know of my capacity to print it out in a larger format. I can print it out in an 8.5 by 11. So I did not print it out.
Okay.
So, and it's possible that a new round of plans, paper copy, were submitted. I just haven't seen it. So what I need to do is just reconcile the fixtures that that have been noted at the top of page 8, and the plan is referenced in here. So that just needs to be checked. Is the specifics on the fixtures, and then the lumens is the higher number.
No, I understood that, but what we need for our own files is a complete set
Right.
of drawings that are consistent with what you
Right.
believe the set is here in Town Hall, so that we have two matching sets.
Right.
I just want to be sure that
Right.
happens.
I can send over another duplicate in the morning.
I think that would be the best thing, rather than Betsy searching around
No,
Town
I'll
Hall.
send over a
Good.
whole new duplicate, and we'll just make sure that it's there.
Yep.
Betsy, my question is, do you want it the big ones, or do you prefer?
Big ones.
I'll take the big ones.
The big ones, okay.
Paper.
Yeah, could you make it the big one so I can have a look at it? And are the big ones the same as the drawings you kindly gave me last time?
Yes,
Okay, that's perfect.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Beth, I don't know if the version that Betsy sent you this afternoon did not list all the separate sheets. The one we have in our hand now does. So I think it would be important for you to review each of those drawings and make
Okay.
sure that they are the latest and greatest.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. If Betsy, I need a copy of what you're looking at.
Well, I think, does she have a copy of what we're looking at?
You have one that's red, white, and blue?
No, I have
Okay.
one that's from my printer with my squiggles on,
Okay. You can have my copy
when you're finished.
when we're finished here.
It's a mystery, because I made 8 copies, and I don't know where they went.
So all the red and underlines, that's you, Steve, right?
Correct. Mostly from comparing it to other.
I don't want to state the obvious, but this is a little bit too loose, inclusive
I don't think we're going to.
to vote on tonight.
Well,
I hate to say that, but it just is pretty,
let's get through the review and then
okay.
we can talk about what we do. I mean, I just want to make sure we have everybody's comments. Steve, did you have anything else?
The only other question I have is on page 5, item B4, where it talks about the fill and mentions the Town of Weston Board of Health in a couple places in that paragraph.
Okay,
And
let
then
me explain.
Okay, and well, let me just finish. So what I was going to say is that on all the other COAs I saw, it didn't mention the Western Board of Health at all. So,
This language was copied from, I think, the Three Kings grant.
no, we didn't have it either.
Well, it was copied from
From
another.
something.
from something. And I went down and had a discussion with Wendy, and apparently she does not review fill coming into town. She
Yeah,
reviews
never
it.
heard of that one.
She reviews only what goes into a septic system.
Yeah,
So if there's fill coming into town, not clear who inspects it for cleanness. And where it came from.
Right, this is one of our boilerplates, I thought. Because, and this came out of, what was the case? The building that was up on the hill, Scotch Road or something.
Scotch Pine.
Yeah, where he brought in like enormous amounts of fill to create a level playing field.
But who was, but I agree. Do you remember the Board of Health being in any of these?
I don't think it is.
No.
I'm gonna go look at King's Grant right
Yeah.
now, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
Yeah, I don't remember it being the
Well,
Board of Health, but if
I mean, why would they?
it's dirty fill.
Oh, that's really common for boards of health. They're gonna be monitoring, I mean,
Just ordinary fill?
yeah.
Really?
Have we ever done that? Betsy says she's never, I'm not Betsy, but Wendy has never inspected fill coming into town before, right?
Right,
So
With the
we've never
septic
done
system,
it
I
as a
can
town.
see it.
Right, but as a town, we've never
okay.
done that.
I mean,
That's a new requirement for the Board of Health, I don't know about it.
No, that's why I put the blue language in any other applicable town of Weston department with applicable jurisdiction, because most boards of health review fill that comes into town to make sure it's not dirty. And I went and talked with her about it, and she said, no, I only review septic system fill.
Who does review, who looks at the fill? Does anybody ever look at the fill?
Well, I'll tell you,
You do.
So you speak up, John.
I have in the past alerted the Board of Health where there's been some question of solid waste in the fill.
Uh-huh.
So do they act on it?
Oh, yes.
So you at least check the fill that comes in.
Yes, well, not every truckload, and obviously when, some people are filling operations, they can have 7, 8, 10 trucks moving hundreds of yards an hour. But when I'm looking at the sites, I can very readily detect when there's solid waste. If it's dirty, the only thing I can think of would be maybe an excavated batch of fill from a septic system or from some other type of fill system.
so could I suggest a change in the language? Use in connection, all fill used in connection with this project shall be clean fill as approved by the applicable Town of Weston official department, official or department with jurisdiction.
That's a good catch-all.
Well, we don't know where to point the fingers.
so can I just say that in
That's what I
the,
say, it's good.
in the King's Grant COA and others that I looked at, just so we know, there would just be a period after clean fill on the first line.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Shall be clean fill, period. And then on the last line, the and/or the Town of Weston Board of Health would be deleted. So it just, disposal in conformance with current environmental criteria shall not be utilized.
Right, and then,
So-
so what we're doing though is adding to the
Right.
first sentence,
So
as
it'll
approved by the applicable
Right, which I think
official.
is good.
So it'll read, all fill used in connection with this project shall be clean fill. Any fill
No,
shall,
we want to add what Al was suggesting now.
okay.
Did you not write that down?
Okay, so wait a minute, all fill used in connection with this project shall be clean fill, as approved by the applicable Town of Weston department with jurisdiction.
Or official.
Department or official.
Right. And then at the end of the paragraph,
With, okay, so wait a minute, with jurisdiction,
period.
okay, wait a minute. And then is the language, any fill shall shall contain no trash, refuse.
Yeah, that's.
That stays in.
Yeah.
And then any field subject to specialized disposal.
I didn't understand the sentence at all.
It means that
In,
if it's something that needs
In
containment
conformance
or
with current
treatment.
environmental criteria.
So we've got fill, let's say, coming in loaded with lead, and then that goes before the Board of Health before it gets dumped around the town? I don't understand it.
It's hazardous waste.
Okay, so any hazardous waste fill will be
Yeah.
subject to conformance with our
It-
Mass Board of Health.
Hazardous waste fill is not
Current
allowed.
environmental
Environmental
criteria,
criteria.
which is broad.
Take the
And so
Board of
big-
Health out of it again.
So let's just say, and not used?
Utilized is
Yeah, how about
extreme.
simple? No
Let's get to
dirty-
the actual meat of it.
Yeah,
Any fill subject to specialized disposal in conformance with current environmental criteria
shall not be used. Okay, there we
Shall
go.
not be used.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
better.
Okay.
So does that mean you have to test for radioactive waste and lead and all kinds of stuff, or you're just sort of eyeballing things for pipes?
Mostly what you're talking about is DEP requirements.
Yeah.
Okay.
The DEP has some very stringent language
Mhm.
when it comes to fill, what fill is and what it can be comprised of.
So do you have a certificate? Do drivers or do people tell you? So,
No, 99% of the time it's specialized fill. It would be sand for a septic system, or it would be crushed stone for graded base, or it'd be structural fill. It's a mix of gravel and sand.
all right, so it isn't just because we did have a case up on Kings Grant Road where somebody did a lot of illegal filling,
Sure.
and it was all from one of the tear-down factories over on Route 9 in Natick,
Mhm.
and it had amazing things sticking
Yeah,
out of
there'd
it.
be lead, arsenic.
Everything.
Tires.
Yeah. There were tires,
And
pipes.
that's solid waste. That's again very heavily regulated by the DEP.
Okay,
Um,
but this did make it into the town, so.
Right, and there's really no local oversight of that.
Right, that's the point. He
The
was just
Board of
saying,
Health-
measure of lumber, this is a job that they might want to do.
The Board of Health doesn't
actual
specifically do
job?
it. The building department doesn't do it.
Yeah, right, I mean, nobody does it, it's not a bailiwick, so it's interesting, I mean, the town's wide open, and here we are talking away about the case estates with all the environmental waste out there.
Yeah, but what about all the projects that don't even
Come
come
before
before
us?
us that are less than 6,000 square feet? They can just do anything they want?
Yeah.
This
No,
place
they-
glows
they-
in the dark.
They're all subject to the state building code requirements, the DEP
Yeah.
requirements.
Mm.
And
Right.
clean fill is a very,
It still means that after the fact, you gotta find it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
yeah.
It means you gotta look for it, which means you gotta test for it, which means then maybe you get into some sort of an action to deal with it, and you get someone to pay to deal with it.
that might be for
Sort of
some
a cart before the horse, but.
Okay, so
All
we
right, but
revised that.
invisible
Yeah.
contaminated
Yeah, we
material,
revised
but
that.
Let's get
bricks
through this
and water
decision.
we see.
Yeah.
You're done?
Yeah.
We all done? All right, so now the question is, what are we gonna do?
Okay, for my notes, I need to incorporate more of Kara's minutes into the section on page 2. And I need to double check if I have all the updated plans and reconcile, just double check on the top of page 3 and the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4. And then the section that's dealing with lighting on the top of bottom of page 7 and top of page 8, I need to just confirm those figures are accurate and those fixtures are accurate.
Thing is, I'm just concerned, I don't even remember what changes that they made, but I'm thinking of the neighbor to the right that wanted some
And that's
additional
what-
trees added. I don't remember, didn't the house change a little from our site visit?
No,
No?
if I may speak for a moment.
Yes.
We had the presentation, and it was a very tight presentation. The neighbors did speak and had concerns about the size of the house.
Mhm.
The chairman said that that's something that they go to the ZBA when they're talking about the
Mhm.
continuance. We also talked about the landscape plan. There was a question asked whether or not there was enough screening. Kim said she thought that she was pleased with the plan, but that to add one more tree, so if you
She
looked
showed it
at,
to us
if you looked at the
last week, remember?
at the landscape
Okay.
plan, we added that.
I don't know if we have it in the file yet, though.
It is in the file,
Okay.
and in the landscape plan, the one that was added actually has a circle around it, on the updated one. And that was the discussion. I mean, it was a very tight plan. There was a question from the neighbors about the water runoff. Dave talked about the storm water, and it was, he felt very good about it. And Kim talked that it was the landscape plan. There was no questions from this board. So I'm really hoping we'd be able to do a decision.
Here's what people are wrestling with. Usually with decisions, we have it 95% there at worst, and we make a few modifications and tweaks, and then we can accept a decision with those modifications. Here, there's a lot of stuff that we don't even know what it's going to say, because it's not even in here in draft form yet, such as the discussion. And then there are a lot of, gaps and red marks and changes, and so it's a much less defined document than what we are accustomed to signing off on. So I think what people over here are saying is this close enough so that we feel comfortable voting to make this decision with the gaps that we're looking at?
Well, my question then to the board is, because I know that there has been turmoil up in the change and everything, but with the submissions and the plans that we did show with the correction for the landscaping, which was resubmitted, I'm not quite sure, other than Scribner corrections, and I understand that you need the Scribner corrections and you want it correct, but we can't proceed with the ZBA. And we're really in a box. We tried very hard to be very accommodating and responsive to the board's concerns even before the submissions. So I understand that it's I don't want to say clerical, but in a way it is clerical, because it's just going back and forth, making sure that the plans that we submitted, or the exact plans.
Right. Let me cut to the chase. I think the point you're making is, are the issues that concern us substantive?
Yes.
Or are they merely clerical? Mm-hmm. In other words, is there anything new that we would see that would change any of the basic conditions or considerations that we would have in making our decision? And if the answer to that is no, then I think you can make a reasonable case that we can sign off on it with modifications. If the answer is yes, that some of these issues are substantive, then I don't think we could sign off on it. So that's my question.
I think that's a good question, and I think that what have we got that's substantive that would be an issue? I mean, we've got, even the landscaping we've got covered here by the plot, by the plan, and also we still reserve the right that when it's all done, if it is inadequate, we can add more planting.
But Betsy just enumerated the large things that have to be revised, and the one that I didn't hear was Al's point about confirmation by the surveyor about the foundation. I mean, that's a substantive issue, but I mean...
You're going to make that a condition.
Yeah. You didn't mention it, though, when you were going through your recap. That's all he's saying.
I mean,
I guess I didn't see
it a
that
substantive
as...
issue.
I guess it's being included as an issue, I mean, as a condition.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is dig up that language from
No,
another
he just said you didn't
decision.
mention it when you did your
Okay.
recap, that's all. He didn't want you to forget it.
I have it in here, the
Okay.
outstanding points were just confirming the,
Maybe I just missed it, Betsy, I just
Okay.
wanted to remind you, that's all.
okay, just confirming the plans, making sure that the lighting complied with
Yeah.
the last plan
Yeah.
and,
Right.
And the minutes.
and incorporating Kara's minutes into the discussion section.
Right.
And getting all the dimensions on there correctly,
Right.
right?
I mean, we're meeting next week.
I am not comfortable at all with this, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not smart enough, I guess, to, you know, kind of look at all this kind of red and blue and all the additions and say, I'm very, that I'm more than willing to vote for this. I just can't, you know, because that just isn't what we've done for the past 10, whatever, how many years.
Well,
I've been
because
on this
we've
board.
got three
I just
things.
can't view it all, I'm
We've
just
got,
not smart
we've
enough.
got the findings, which are incomplete. We've got the conditions, which are more or less complete with a couple of revisions. And then we have the submittals.
There's a lot of loose
And the
ends.
submittals, in other words, are inconsistent. We don't quite
You can
know.
bring it to a vote and everybody can vote the way they want to.
Well,
I'm fine with that.
I'm just trying to get people's
Yeah.
opinions.
When you're
Um,
blind.
I mean, look, Beth, we're meeting again next week. And Mike, this can be ready for prime time by next week. So I appreciate that it's been a long time and you guys have been very patient, but could you be patient another week and then we can review it next week and sign off on it?
I guess the question I need to ask of the board then is if there are substantive issues with the design, and I'm not having the team come here, and yet you're telling me that there might be substantive questions,
I think what I'm hearing people say is it's not together enough yet. It's not that, I think I'm hearing people say that the issues are not substantive, but there are enough of the clerical ones that they don't feel comfortable just saying, okay, we'll assume that everything is going to be absolutely right and go ahead and sign off on it in its current condition. But I don't hear anybody saying that there are issues of substance that are concerning them at this point.
I don't remember the issues, that's my
Right.
problem.
Yeah, I
That's
just
why I
want to see it,
these
I just
meeting
want to see
minutes.
the
Oh,
whole
okay.
thing.
so then I'm just going to have
Okay.
to go and say to the ZB, Noreen Stockman, that I can't proceed with any type of notice in the newspaper because it's been delayed again. I mean,
It's only a week, Beth.
There's not,
Can
so
I
you
just-
haven't scheduled a hearing yet with the ZBAs?
Actually,
can't until this is
I
set,
gave Noreen the comment that I thought it was gonna be made, the decision would be made tonight, so she could, but your hearing is the 8th of July?
yeah.
8th of July?
So-
Wait a minute, what's next week? Aren't we meeting next week?
Yes.
No,
Presumably.
excuse me. Noreen, we did our filings with the ZBA, and we've been waiting for your decision
Oh.
for the ZBA to do the, I'm sorry, my mind's gone, the advertising and the notice.
A month away.
And we were supposed to have the decision last week, we were holding, I told Noreen, hopefully we'd have the decision this week. I think that perhaps we were optimistic that there would be a sense of the committee this week. So Noreen said, I think July 8th. But if I don't have a decision next week, then
We're sort of over a barrel. I mean, I hope you appreciate that. It's not that people are not sympathetic.
Mr. Chairman, I understand. I truly understand, but I'm also trying to explain to
Yeah.
the owner and my client and
No, I can appreciate
again,
it.
because the summer comes
Yeah.
and,
You're losing time.
well, I'm afraid the ZBA is going to be gone.
Yeah.
And then we're now in September.
Do they go away for the summer? I didn't even know that.
We all do.
It takes some time.
No.
We used to.
We
Yeah,
used to.
Speak for yourself.
3 months off.
Some people
Everybody
have
knows that.
decided that's not a good idea.
But
You had
that's
you
a
had
month
comment.
from
I had a
now.
couple questions.
Could
One
you
was-
just-
Yeah, the
Your name,
conditions
please.
of approval.
Your name, please.
Oh, Michael Callowart, at 84 Chestnut Street. One of the conditions of approval, I think we discussed last week, does that mean, for example, that the house which you're approving here in the planning permission will be the house that basically they will be building?
That's a good point.
So is
That's
that
a
one of the
very good
conditions?
point.
Because as a neighbor,
That's a
I'm
very
very
good point.
sympathetic to the house. I think it's a very pretty house.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a
That's an
similar house.
outstanding, I'm glad you
Yeah,
brought
that's a
that
great
up.
question,
Yeah.
thank you.
I believe
It doesn't really say.
that's in, it says in your conditions on page 8. Any deviations to the project, including but not limited to changes in the design and or location of the house, accessory structures, driveway, septic system, proposed limited work, will require the applicant and his agent to appear before the planning board for approval prior to the change being made.
No, but the trouble with that is that suggests that all that has to happen is they have to come to the planning board. And we got into this on Love Lane, remember Beth?
Yes, and on 84, you put language in on 84 saying this is the house
Was
that
this the 84 Love Lane language? I don't think it was, though.
I don't
I don't think it was.
I didn't put in that type of language only because it's not up to me to put the
No, I
language in.
understand. But I'm just saying, what we want in there is the 84 Love Lane language, which said it has, the design is going to be what we approve. It's not any changes in the design, you have to come back to the planning board. It's, this is the design, and this is what we anticipate will be built. So we don't get that, what we got, at the other house on Love Lane, where it was, where we thought it was gonna look like, this, and we wound up with a presentation that was a completely different house.
I can send over the 84 Love Lane,
I'm
84
sure
Love
you've got
Lane
it.
language to
Can I
Betty.
just play the devil's advocate? I don't think that that's necessarily in our interest. Because,
Why?
because we're not that crazy about the house. We were talking about how they made a, helicopter pad for it and it was too big for the site. What if someone came in and they wanted to build a more sensitive house on the site?
On the other
Then we
hand,
have
what
to
if
say
they
no?
didn't?
Right,
I
right.
mean,
but-
I didn't think the house at 84 Love Lane was the greatest house that you could design for that site either. But it was a house that we reviewed and we thought was at least acceptable. I'm concerned that without, usually what we get is the person comes in, the people who are presenting the drawings are the people who intend to build the house. What we're getting now is the people who present the drawings for the permit are not the ones who actually wind up getting the property and building the house. So at some point, if you leave it open-ended, on the one hand, you could get a Frank Lloyd Wright masterpiece. On the other hand, you could get what we got at Love Lane, which we had to negotiate over pretty stringently.
But you
So-
can also say no. If you get
Well,
something a lot worse.
it's site plan review, so, it's hard to say no. It's not like a special permit. That's the problem. If they meet the standards, what we were talking about there, if you remember, Steve, is they said, it's the square footage you're looking for, the height you're looking for, what is it that that's not right about this? And we had quite an extensive conversation about that. I don't want to get into that over and over again. I realize this isn't the world's greatest house, but it's the one we signed off on. So, of course, they could always come back, even if we say, we want this house, this is what we signed off on. They could come back and say, we have a better house. There's nothing to prevent them from doing that. And we could say no to that, but at least we have a baseline.
Or yes, if it's
Or yes,
if it's a good house.
if it's a good house, but I want the security of the baseline.
As long as we can do it that way, look at it that way, sure.
So let's look at, just a second, let's look at 84 Love Lane, that decision, because that worked pretty well.
Okay.
Yes, sir, you had a question.
Jamie McManus, 88 Chestnut Street. I think we're just concerned that the architectural language of our neighborhood continues, and I think you're pointing out just we don't get a bait and switch.
Yeah, let's see, that they're concerned about that.
Yeah, and otherwise there's no point in asking for our feedback if this is
Right.
not the house that it's going to be, if
Yeah.
it's going to be a different size, if it's going to be
Exactly.
15,000 square feet and
Right.
another story on top. There's no point.
As
in
long as
us
this language won't prevent us from saying no if they say we have a better design, I have no problem with it.
All right, well, let's,
But
Okay,
that
that
would
is
be come
substantive.
back, that would then have to come back and would be a new hearing.
that is
So that
substantive.
kind of
We
thing.
gotta, we
That's
have to
fine.
look at that. So, and I thought we mentioned that at the last meeting too.
Yeah, you brought it up.
Right,
You did bring it up.
Right,
So
yeah.
that was
Right,
just,
so I don't know how that fell through the cracks, but that one is, that's
well, we're
important.
blaming you, Betsy.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question? With regard to the screening, so obviously, with the landscaping that they've designed, how can I be sure that that screening is maintained throughout, the next 10, 20 years? So, I mean, is there language within, a statute within the town of Weston which basically makes sure that they have to maintain that screening?
Yeah, I thought our standard boilerplate was talking about replacing the.
And it isn't just like you have to replace it just to make sure it lives for 5 years. It's
Okay.
it's part of the decision.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
It's part
So
of the
if
decision. That
a
has
tree
to be
dies and you
maintained.
see it, you
Yeah.
just call the planner and.
Right.
Yeah.
She'll come out and plan on it.
Screening for the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's part of the decision, so it's sort of in perpetuity.
Okay,
That's the way I read it.
yeah.
all right, so I know it's gonna,
No, we wrecked Beth's day.
Beth,
yeah,
so
sorry, Beth.
But
I
it's
know
only
it's
for
just
a
the
week.
end of the
You'll
day.
still make July 8th. Come on,
Yeah.
you'll make July.
Definitely.
I know what you're up against. I appreciate it. Believe me.
No, I'm sympathetic. Truly I am.
We're
she
sympathetic
wants to
with each
kill us
other.
all.
But
It might, may I make a comment though?
sure.
It might not be a bad idea to have the petitioners send over drafts. So, no, hear me out. Now, I
please.
just hear
No,
me out
we're
for a
almost
second.
over the rough patch, Beth.
But it might not be a bad idea with all just the technical language. And that could be a requirement, because we did send over the technical language, and that's part of what the town planner would be doing, is checking our technical language with plans.
What do you
Because-
mean by technical language?
Well, we put down all the, what plans, the
The document submitted, you mean?
documents submitted, the zoning or the heights and things like that. It might make life easier.
The setbacks and so
Yeah.
forth?
That-
Well,
that
that's something we
might-
could consider, but I wouldn't want that to.
I'm not talking
The
about the
problem with it
decision.
is the camel's nose in the tent. I don't want it to seep into the discussion, I don't want it to seep into the conditions.
But it might,
Then
we don't want
think
to
about it.
derail the progress that we're getting closer to here.
I'm not trying to derail it, but it
I know that.
might be easy just to have certain numbers on a disc that the town planner can plug in.
Yeah, well, we'll consider that suggestion, Beth, honestly.
That's just working,
Yeah,
that's just a working
Sure.
thing.
All right, so we'll have to continue it to next week, that's the 18th, is it?
Yeah, that,
And what time?
well, that's where we run into a challenge.
But hopefully we'll all see the document before that.
Beforehand, we
Right.
read it,
Yourself
we can be
included.
in and out of
Yeah.
fast,
Okay.
as long as there's nothing glaring missing.
We have a hearing at 7:45, a hearing at 8:30, a hearing at 9:15. The hearing at 9:15 is the Rivers School yurt, which I don't think is gonna take a full 45 minutes, but,
Okay,
so
What's
we
the one
should-
before 9:15?
That's 9:15.
And what's the one before that?
Warren
8:30.
Ave.
Oh, that'll take forever.
And
Can we squeeze them in like
I would
before
suggest
Warren
that-
Ave?
I
Could we
would-
do like a 7:15
Yeah.
or 7 o'clock, just because we've
That's
ruined
7.
for a week?
7:15 if we can do it. So let's start at
So
7:15
if we
and
start
then
at
schedule
7:15,
her at
we
7:30.
could- Okay, so 7:30.
We'll start early.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to have any objections as the neighbors. I think it's a
Okay,
very
so
nice house, so I think
7:30
it can be done fairly
is-
quickly.
78 Chestnut.
All right, so on the
So we're
18th,
starting
we're
at
starting at
7:15.
It's the 18th?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
I expect, I think you could risk going ahead with advertising the hearing. That's off the record.
No, I understand.
No, it isn't, it's on the record, it's videotaped it.
No, I'm kidding.
It would be my gut too,
Yeah.
but
I appreciate it, thank you.
Can I ask the board one last question?
Yeah.
Build timetables, once ground is broken, because we have the issue with the house across the road where they just, endlessly are building and never seem to complete the house. Once you get started, roughly how long do they have to complete? Is it open-ended or is there a time limit?
We don't set time limits on construction. I mean, we couldn't do that.
Can I respond?
Yeah?
Yes.
If the builder's not going to build until he has a contract, someone's going to buy it.
Yeah.
It's economically, he wants it done as fast as possible. If the house is sold and someone else is taking over the project, and they run out of money, I can't control it. No one can control it.
Yeah, it's interesting because they do, we've built in the Bahamas and they set very strict time limits. So they give you 14 months and that's it.
It's a little easier.
it's a different form,
Yeah.
slightly different form of government
Yeah.
culture.
Well, the hanging fish, it's a bit more loose, but on the other hand, they do have very strict time limits. But, the
We're not
real
talking
issue is,
Bermuda.
because we still have trucks coming in from across the road and it just,
Yeah.
it's endless. It's now, 3 years, Jamie?
Wow.
So,
Well, that's extreme. I mean,
To finish a house that was approved
Is that
7 years ago?
before my time.
what number is that?
What number is that?
Yeah,
I have no idea what it is.
77?
I don't know what it is.
Chestnut?
it's the big one. Very
The
good.
big
Must be
one?
very, very
Yeah.
large,
Yeah.
and
I
they're
I
maybe
don't think
doing
it's
it on
one.
installments.
It's a big one that we didn't look at.
How
The
could
old
that
McCall
be?
and South.
Unless it's
No, I think it did.
Or is
It
it,
did?
maybe,
77
or is it an
Chestnut?
addition? It could be a giant addition.
No, it's a
It's a new
new
house.
house.
No, it's a new house. It's a new house.
Wow.
Less than 6,000?
No.
It's 12.
No.
It's just 12,
14,
13,000.
It's just taking a little.
Before
It's
my time.
10,077.
Who's the builder? You know who the builder is?
The owner,
Who's the owner?
Alex Vogel, I think his name is.
Oh, that's Mark Chaplin.
No.
No.
No, it's not Mark
Alex,
Chaplin.
It's
what
not a
was his
local
name?
builder.
FAI.
It's not?
No.
Bagel,
He's from
Vogel,
Chicago.
Alex, Bagel,
Oh.
Vogel.
I don't
He's
know.
the owner of the house, he's the general contractor.
Okay.
He doesn't live there?
Not yet.
No, 3 years, it's not
We
important.
just,
No, I just needed.
it's not, there's nothing in,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
We have a lot.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you,
We'll see you next week.
They're on North Ave.
thank you,
Thank you.
thank you for putting that early, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night, everybody, thanks for coming.